So I already got their video rolling on this, so I figured I might as well show this as well. Something I didn't know I was going to have to do, but I do nonetheless. So the legs for the Canopy are just kind of a press fit. They just go together and they have these little dimples that hold them in. Whereas the top is bolted together and the holes were pre-drilled. And my plan was to use these little feet to mount this to some pier blocks using lag screws to hold it down. But that's not going to be very useful if this is a press fit, especially when these black tubes heat up in the sun. They're going to expand and that joint is going to get looser. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to drill some holes and then I'm going to go pick up some more hardware and bolt these legs together. And then I noticed that the corner frames on the Canopy, the steel corner frames, have pre-drilled holes for hardware. But if you look at the top, these guys aren't pre-drilled. So I'm just going to show you what I'm doing here. I started off by putting these together. And then I don't know if you can see it, I just lined them up. They're not lined up right now, but I lined them up and then I just made a mark across them using a Sharpie. It's an inch from this joint, from the end of this tube. And then the smaller side, the male side goes into the female side by probably an inch and a half. I guess about 2 1/4 inches. So that's going to give me plenty of edge clearance on both pipes. Once I have that done, then I'm just kind of lining it up here. I'm just using the part stamping as a reference. And then I'm going to take a punch here. It's going to be real hard to show because I don't have 2 hands. Let me see if I can stand this up here somehow. So I'm going to take a punch here, hold it in place, and I'm gonna give this a pretty good whack. You can see that. I'm gonna give that a pretty good whack. I can't hit it right now, or else my iPhone's gonna fall down. It's just barely standing up. And then so I did that for each tube. I've actually pre-drilled the pilot holes here. Once I have that dimple that's gonna guide my drill, I'm gonna drill a pilot hole. Let's see what size pilot hole I'm using. I'm using a 1/8 pilot hole, just something that's a bit that's sturdy enough to get through metal and not flex a lot. And just need anything that'll work for cutting fluid. Just put a little dab on there. It's funny. I have a backing board here, so I'm gonna drill through my table. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to give it a shot here. I'm trying to stand my phone up. It's probably going to flop down while I'm drilling, but we'll see. Actually, you could probably see better from this other side if I can get it to stand up over here. We'll see. And unfortunately, I don't have a drill press, so I'm doing this with just a hand drill. Make this much easier. We're drilling a pilot hole like this. It helps to have most of the shank of the drill inside of the chuck here, so that you get as little flex as possible on the pilot drill bit, just because, you know, by definition it's going to be a small bit. And then I'm going to stop that here. I'll get set up for next. Okay, so I'm ready to drill the real holes. All my pilot holes are drilled. If I didn't mention this before, you want to make sure before you drill your pilot holes that you have these 2 sides jammed completely together. The best way to do that is kind of slip them together and then put a 2x4 or something on the ground and then just grab the top one and kind of ram the bottom piece into the 2x4 on the ground until they're really tight together. So I've checked up a 1/4-inch drill bit. That's all we need for the hardware that we're going to use, which is, I'm going to use the same hardware that I'm just going to go buy more of it, but the same hardware that it came with. So I'm just going to set up my phone here. Hopefully that captures it. The holes that they have pre-drilled in the other pieces are 5/16, but that's a little bit bigger, but they over drilled them so that they're easier to assemble. So if you get one tube a little twisted or not quite at the right rotation, you can still get the bolt in. We don't need that. These are already pressed together, so we can just use exactly the size that we need. I'm going to find that hole on the bottom. I'm just going to clean out this hole a little bit. The main trick to drilling metal without a press is a lot of pressure and quick bursts and something that'll act as cutting through. Okay, so I'm going to drill the rest of these. Okay, so I have all of the holes drilled that I'm going to use to secure each of the two pieces of the legs together. Now I'm going to drill the holes for these mounting feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one here and I'm going to jam it on, and then I'm going to hold this pole up and make sure it's all the way on there. It's pretty on there. And then I'm just going to mark the center of this hole with my punch. And I'll mark the other side too. Oh, that's hard to see. It's hard to hold this thing and work at the same time. Okay, so I have two little marks center of those holes. What I'm doing here is I'm just trying to determine how to take that off. So I'm taking this foot off, and I'm going to grab a different foot. That was my other foot. I marked these guys on the bottom as well, which has a number. There's 6 of them. So I'm going to grab this other guy and slide. Okay, I think I got interrupted there. My phone is low, so my videos keep going. Anyways, I'm gonna grab a different leg and I'm just gonna slide it on. What I'm trying to determine here is how tight the tolerances are on these, the manufacturing of these feet, because that'll determine if I can drill all the holes exactly the same length from the end of the pole, or if I have to drill a separate set of holes for each of the different feet. And see that mark? Yeah, I know that's hard to see. That mark lines up just about perfectly dead center. That one's a little off. Let's put this one on. Okay, so it's pretty close. I'll try one more here. Okay, so it's close enough. They over drilled these holes a little bit, so that gives us a little tolerance. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill all the holes the same distance from the end of the pole, and that looks to be I gotta find a measurement scale here. Hang on. Okay. So once again, I'm just measuring. Make sure that's my mark. Measuring away how far from the end of the pole. Well, that's annoying. It's a 32nd under an inch and an eighth. Okay, well, at least we know how far to measure, how far to drill. Okay, so let's get to drawing. Okay, so just that I don't skip any steps, you make sure that you're drilling. It doesn't matter terribly, but they're designed to have the 80325 part on the ground, so you want to have the right. You want to drill the right ones for the legs, or for the feet here. So I'm going to drill these just a little bit short, because if I drill them too far up, then there's a chance that it won't seat all the way into the foot. And I'm just going to use a punch here to mark that. I'm going to check that on another different leg. It looks like that'll probably do. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the rest of these. Okay, so I have all these marked. You can kind of see I just scribed a little line at the same distance from the edge on all these. And now I'm going to go ahead and the same exact procedure as before. Let's see if I can show you that. An extra set here. See that? Because most stuff I'm going to fall down as soon as I do this. The challenging thing in this project is getting my back up. Unbelievable. Hopefully you can see past my tape. Yeah, I think you can see that. Okay, so same procedure as before. I'm just going to take my punch here. It's hard to hold the pull and punch at the same time. I'll give it a pretty good whack so that it has a good little indentation for that pilot drill bit to settle into. If you don't, it'll just kind of scroll around. Once again, using 1/8 inch drill for pilot hole. just long enough, a little bit longer than the diameter of the tube. A little bit of oil. This one's pretty important that you go straight through the tube to the other side vertically, because if you don't, you know, it's not going to sit in the foot right. I don't know if I broke my bit, but dang it. Just clean these holes out a little bit. I'll just do this 1/4 inch. Look on this one. I want to start recording. Now if you can see that, hopefully you can. I'm going to make sure that I get into the pilot hole on the other side. You can see into the end of the tube. I'm just going to clean up these holes a little bit. And that's that. That's one done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the other 5. Okay, so I just ran out and picked up some extra 1/4 inch hardware, and I'm going to put the feet onto the legs, so I'm just push them on there. And then of course the holes aren't going to be perfect, but hopefully the oversized hole in the foot here gives you enough room. Get that in there. That's it. Then I'll tighten those down after. Okay, I'm going to do 5 more of those and then move on to the next thing. Okay, so I was just putting the feet on, and then realized that I should bolt these the legs together first, just so that if I'm pounding on the legs to get them on there, or pounding on the feet to get them on the legs, I don't misalign the bolt holes that I have built in here. So this is it's just, I got regular bolts instead of carriage bolts like the kit came with. That way I can tighten them down a little easier. And this is it's a 1/4 inch hardware, and these are galvanized. See that? Okay, then I'm going to throw a lock nut on there, so I don't want it coming off. And one thing, yeah, I usually use stainless hardware and things because I don't want to have to replace it in 2 years, but for these guys I'm using galvanized because if you use stainless on this, then you know, when it gets wet, that stainless is going to act as a cathode to the mild steel that these poles, these tubes are made from, and then they're going to corrode preferentially, so you're going to end up with corrosion at the holes. Whereas if you use galvanized hardware, and the zinc on it is going to corrode rather than having the steel on the tube frame structure corrode. I'd much rather replace, you know, some bolts and nuts in 2 years than have all these holes corroded out and not be able to do anything with the structure. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of those in, and then go back to doing the feet. Okay, now I've got all the bolts through the legs, holding them together. Got the feet on the legs. Everything's just kind of finger tight. I'm going to try to show this better. If I even can here. Looks like we not really need 2 hands, but basically I'm just going to use a wrench. Just tighten this down a little bit just till it's snug. Crazy. And that's good. I have a lock washer on there, so it'll stay in place. These guys, I'm just going to tighten these down too. Don't need a lock washer here. The plastic will compress a little bit and act almost like a lock nut. So they're fine without it. Though I should have put a washer there. Let's see. Okay, so basically, I'm gonna see if I need a washer here. I think I do, but I'm just gonna repeat that for the other 5 legs. Okay, so the legs and feet are all together, and then I'm just gonna put one side in. Jammed these legs all the way into the corner brackets on the canopy frame. You're probably wondering why I didn't pre-drill the holes at the top here, and that's because I didn't know how far each of these legs were going to slide into the corner bracket, so I'm just going to drill them in place. So I'll show you that real quick. Can I hand this off to you? I probably want to get this side. Yeah, come over here. Yeah. So again, I'm just going to use a punch to find the center of this. My pilot. I'm going to do that for all the legs, and then I'm going to come back and drill out these holes 1/4 inch and put my hardware through there. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this. I have the holes drilled out for 3 of these legs. Now the way to do it is to drill the pilot holes on each side separately. So go in, from this side, then go in from this side. So if you go straight through, you're likely to miss the hole on this other side, unless you get lucky. So drill 2 holes, pilot holes for each side, for each of the legs, for each of those corner brackets, and then come back and drill them out with the larger 1/4 inch drill bit. And then I'm just gonna stick my hardware through here, and now just to be facing the other way. But I'm going to put, just like with the legs down here, I'm going to put a lock washer. So hard to do with one hand. And then I'm just going to tighten those down snug with the ratchet. You don't tighten them down so much so that you oval the tube, because it likely won't come back from that shape. You just want to tighten them down snug so that the lock washer is basically flat. And that's it. I'm just going to do the other side now. Okay, so I picked up these 6 pier blocks from Home Depot, and these are what I'm going to use to weight the whole thing down. Basically, I'm gonna bolt the feet that are on the legs into the tops of these. Now these are just cement blocks, and then they have little chunks of 2x6 epoxy to the top. But before I do that, I can't take credit for this idea. Another guy that reviewed the Canopy on Amazon mentioned that this is what he did. So that's his idea, but I'm just going to show you how to do it. So I picked up some dark brown spray paint. I'm just going to hit these with a couple light coats. I've shaken this well already before I attach these guys. This spray paint probably isn't going to stay on them for a super long time, but it's pretty similar to the color of the legs. kind of a dark brown, almost black, so I'm hoping that they'll just fit in a little bit better. It's a little windy here, so I'm kind of closer to spray can than I'd like to be. Otherwise, it's just blowing all over the place. Okay, so I'm just going to do the other side. I'm going to rotate them 90 and then repeat. And I'll throw one more coat on after that. I'm not too high to do so. And then I'm going to fasten them to the feet. Okay, so that's how the blocks look after a little spray paint. They look pretty dark here, but this is in the shade, so once they're out in the sun, they'll look a little bit browner. Now I'm just going to give them a little bit of time to dry, and then go attach them. Okay, so here I'm at kind of the final step. I have some 5/16 by inch long lag bolts, and got this got the tarp on it. Got this thing up on the pier blocks, and basically I'm just gonna drill some holes with a 3/16 inch bit, and then mount this using the screws for the bolts. So I have a couple just deck screws in place in each of the four corners right now to kind of hold it while I was moving the blocks around. Another one on this side. And a high-fish socket. Tighten those right down. Make sure I tighten them too tight. I don't want to crack the footing. Just snug. This thing isn't going to go anywhere. I'm just going to use 2 lag bolts per foot. There's 4 holes in the foot, but it'd be kind of an overkill, not really necessary. That's pretty much it. Just got to do this for the remaining 6 feet. I'll take out these placeholder screws and job done. Good spot for my van.